Remix. 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 Remix.
Oh wow, that's crazy. What it do, niggas?
Yo,
Why were
Good
y'all
morning.
late?
you got to be quicker than that. Got to be quicker than that.
Well, honestly, I was sitting here thinking Jared ain't said nothing. I wonder if the show gonna happen because usually he like a few minutes early. So when you didn't say nothing, I was finna go back to sleep. But then we just popped up on the screen. I said, "Damn, that's crazy."
Technically, he was earlier than you, but okay, yeah. Oh,
So I got here early, had to dip backstage, got back just in time to start the show. But you're right. There was no. I was
You know, I was waiting on the voice of God to come through and say,
Oh wow.
"You guys ready?"
Yeah, my bad.
bump,
Yeah,
bump,
I'll
bump all of that. Bump all of that. We want to know how this 3 times Valentine's date went. Give us the tea, the juice.
So real quick, before you do that, let's say good morning, everybody. Welcome to the Remix Morning Show here on Black Liberation Media. Geechee Yaw, Amber, Jared in the building. Peace and welcome to the Undefeated Chat. All answers. Big shout out.
What are you?
We'll get to all that, but Geechee has already offered up the most important question. We've been waiting all week.
Oh my God.
and it's one of them in that collage behind you. No,
No, they're all pictures of me because that's who matters. They went fine. The first person who took me to see Aaron, Pierre, that's Mufasa, rented out the theater. So it was just us. So that was cool. And then we went out to dinner later, and that was fine. I don't think I like him as much anymore. So
wait. Run it out the theater, and now you don't like this? No, hold on now.
It's not about that. That's not what it's about. The date was great. And then the other person, his car got totaled out because he had an accident like a few weeks before. So I went to Nashville. Like he just covered me to come there. And we went to the African American Music Museum, which was so much fun because I love music. So it was a very thoughtful date. And then when he got Mexican food, it was great. I like him the most. The issue with the other guy is he's poly and I'm not poly. And I knew that from the jump. When we started dating, I was like, I'm not poly. So I just want to let you know that. Huh?
You kinda a little bit. I mean, it's kinda.
I just have an active dating life. As most people should if they're not married to anyone.
That's fair.
So what is the difference?
Is that he will never be married. Like he will.
Poly means that's a wrap on any monogamy
some
forever.
Poly do get married, but he's not interested in being married. He was married before. He's divorced, so he doesn't want to be married again.
I'm not mad at that. I'm
not sure if I ever want to be married. So honestly, it wasn't a big deal to me to date someone that's poly. I've done it before.
Yo, he's not poly then. He's just actively dating single too.
I don't think so. I think he's poly.
He said he ain't never gonna get married though. I mean, poly has a commitment, doesn't it?
So, but I prefer monogamy, for instance, and I love being married. But at the same time, as I've even shared with my wife, were this not to go well, I'm not doing it again. Like I wouldn't try to rebuild the work that goes into this all over again. I'd be like, nah, I'm just good.
People can be in committed relationships and like dating multiple people and being committed relationships with both of them. Like ethical non-monogamy is not like a,
That sounds very advanced. I feel very retrograde in that. I don't know if I could handle that either.
It sounds like it's like your dating style is dating to be in a monogamous relationship and he's dating not to be in a relationship at all.
He's dating to be in multiple. So like he wants to be in multiple committed relationships.
And you would never do that. Or you would do that
before. I dated somebody who used to be on the show, but decided that I didn't want to do that a few years ago, so I don't do it anymore. Yeah, I just feel like sometimes I was into it, sometimes I wasn't. I think the biggest thing is like, since I only date men, it wasn't as fun versus like other people who are ethically non-monogamous who are dating men and women or non-binary folks too. Well, I dated non-binary folks before too, but yeah, since I only kind of date those two, sectors, it wasn't as fun. But I found out that he hooked up one of the other people that he was dating, and so now he's not attractive to me anymore.
Oh.
So I was like, kind of went downhill. I also was like, I am very upfront about judging people, and he met somebody for drinks and then like invited them to his house like that same day to smoke because he's a smoker, and I was like, you ain't got no morals or nothing. Like, you just invited a stranger to your house, and now I never want to go there again. So now I just haven't.
Really?
Wait,
You would
what?
never meet somebody and hit it off even just to go hang out?
I'm gonna tell you something right now.
That's
If a
wild.
nigga who I don't know invites me to their house, I'm gonna go rob them. And I highly encourage other folks to do the same thing.
No, what?
If you invite me to your house and you
No,
have
no,
known
clip,
me-
no, clip. That.
What?
No. Let's go somewhere else. Wait,
if you invite me to your house and you've known me for 4 hours, I'm gonna set you up to be robbed. Because I feel like you need to learn a lesson. And the lesson is to not invite strangers to your home, your
Damn,
sacred space.
there go this communist world that we.
Wait
trying
a
to
minute.
This guy.
And Zenzibel is co-signing this?
I see
Yeah.
that.
Sometimes I am fully for men learning a lesson. And sometimes men need to learn a lesson, and that they need to have more dick discipline and stop inviting strangers to their homes.
Okay.
That's all I'm saying.
I mean, listen, here's a caveat. I do agree, and I know this is skits, but that person who's on Instagram who like interviews people in the middle of the street and said, "Where do you live?" and they'd be like, "Oh, I live in Manhattan. Can I see your apartment?" Like that's different than like talking and building and hitting it off, and y'all might have different wires connect. I'm not saying that I would do that, but I'm just
He knew
also
that
not
girl.
judging.
He had been talking to the girl for like 5 days. That ain't enough.
I just feel like that is so. On the one hand, yes, I would want everybody to be safe.
Yeah.
But on the other hand, to create an unnecessarily unsafe environment for you or for anyone.
To
'Cause setting
overcorrect
someone,
the situation.
well, yeah, I mean, because
you don't
setting
know him
someone,
either.
It's only unsafe
you don't know
for
him either, and
giving out his address.
wait, but you don't know him either, and setting him up to get robbed, even by accident, could go many wrong ways. But my other point is, I also don't want to lose hope in humanity. I have a memory of one of the few times in my life where I got picked up. She walked up to me at the pizza spot, and we hit it off at the buffet.
You don't know that girl.
But she took me home, and we had a nice extended time together.
And she should not have done that. You don't know how that could have turned out. That's all I'm saying.
Well, here's
Oh
the
my
but
God.
the
I did not go to
point is-
Raleigh, Egypt.
But some of it is, I think, based on the nature of the interaction. That there are that. So
but
again, now
For
the
me,
lesson.
it
If she
doesn't matter
didn't
the
feel
nature
like
of
that
the
was,
interaction. I could feel like I met my soulmate. Like I just know this person's gonna be like for me for the rest of my life, and I still wouldn't go to their house.
that's fine. That's your process. That's your process and boundaries. But I think it's weird. So here's two things, right? And I know you might have been joking, but maybe you're not. But the
I'm
setting
joking
up.
about robbing somebody.
Yeah, I know. But when I first thought about the setting up
that's
to
a
be
good
robbed,
name, though.
the setting up to be robbed likens to, because I've seen this a lot in my little 41 years, where somebody be like, "I'm gonna get my brother, I'm gonna get my cousin on you," and they got their cousin on them, and their cousin is fucking buried off of some weird shit. Like, so you thought you was going in to do something, and you got buried, and now you just gave your cousin's disposable life away because whatever shit you got going on.
Look, man. Listen. All right. Listen. Can we?
I just want to address a few things in the chat. Somebody said I should copyright. If a nigga invite me to their house, I'm gonna rob them. I actually might look into copyrighting that. Secondly, I am not from North Memphis. I'm from South Memphis, and I went to Carver High School, not Raleigh, Egypt. Third, I am just joking, so y'all should stop being so serious in this chat. It's really just a joke. But I definitely thought about it, but I wasn't gonna do it.
And the co-signers might have been joking too. So let's get.
Now I've also, as I've shared, I think I was on the way to being a victim at that one point, because I did also accept an invitation home with you know, in that weird night in Brooklyn. That's how I just leave it there. But yeah, so listen, let's all
I think the
be
moral
safe.
of the story is that people should take more precautions and not invite.
Let's all be safe and consenting.
Yeah.
Let's safety and consent.
Listen,
and from there it's all good.
We get in call a Breakfast Club, so we can't have pre-banter to.
No, okay, so
they said she wined and dined you at the pizza spot, Jerry.
She did. It was very nice. She said I was wearing a t-shirt, and she said, I would like you at some point to explain. She walked up to me she just said, at some point I'd like you to explain the meaning of that shirt. And I said, we can start right now. Like, why wait? Why put it off?
Andy said, if she robbed me, she gonna be practicing because I ain't got nothing.
Well, that's Chris Tucker's joke. I used to quote that all the time. I'm so broke. If you rob me, you just practicing. And that's why I think that one night in Brooklyn didn't go well. It was like, this is not the right victim. We picked the wrong one.
So we do got some obviously dialogue coming, and we have our brothers coming back for update at the 30 mark. But yeah, give us some grace, chat. We just having a little Amber time.
Yeah,
I just like talking about shenanigans. But yeah, I don't like him as much anymore. And my therapist read me for filth and was like, I was like, well, what do you think I should do? And she was like, well, you said you don't want to date someone who's poly. I said, that's not what I'm asking you. I'm asking you, what should I do? And she said, I'm going to repeat to you what you told me in the beginning of this is that you was just dating for fun and you did not want to be serious with someone that was poly. I said, I get what you're saying. I'm asking you, what choice should I make? And that's what I don't like about therapy. Because bitch, just tell me what to do.
No.
Or choice.
That's
and
not
she
therapy.
Wasn't giving me one.
That ain't therapy at all. They're supposed to help. They're supposed to help.
If they tell you?
No, they're supposed to walk you to some conclusions and thoughts. In fact, they're telling you what to do to get your money back.
That's too therapizing for me. I don't want to do all that. I need somebody to just tell me. Just give me the options that I have. And that's not what she was doing. And it's already too much because she white. So I just feel like it be going left sometimes.
Yeah, I have thought about that. I've
Claude said that's not the point of therapy.
Yeah. I don't think I could go to a white therapist. I don't know how that would. I don't think I would be able. I think my particular brand of trauma requires
if I did not have my therapist for a long time, I would not go to her. I actually thought about switching therapists in like 2021, but I've had the same therapist since I was 13 years old. So at this point,
I don't know. I'm just saying. Yeah, no, I'm not. I wasn't even. It wasn't a criticism at all.
Or no, I didn't think it was a criticism. I was just trying to back up the reason why I stay with her. But if I had not had her for so long, I would have switched. But at this point, we've been too locked in, and I don't feel like telling my life story to nobody else because I'm just lazy.
Yeah.
But I do be yelling at her, and we do be going back and forth because she's a white Jewish lady, but she's not like Jewish. She real liberated. Like I really think I turned her into an abolitionist. Kind of. It's been actually really fun. And I don't pay for most of my therapy sessions. I think she feels bad, so she was charging me.
Therapist.
So it's going okay.
That's funny.
That's wild. No, I mean, I've always thought like sometimes it would be hard to get a therapist who don't have your politics or have some type of cultural awareness. But if they're a good therapist, then maybe that's not necessary.
Well, Trevor Noah was just explaining to everybody the importance, apparently, of segregation in making sure that culture.
What?
I couldn't even get through my even attempted joke. Well, I just had been seeing apparently, D.L. Hughley and Trevor Noah and some beef around something Trevor Noah said in a clipped interview about integration and segregation, and he was talking to a couple of sisters about which was better. And he at one point said something about in the clip I saw, Finland works so well because the only people you find there are Finnish. And, if there's a cultural affinity with the people that, we're all going in the same direction, as I think he said, then you don't
have any clips, because that's a too wrong argument.
Honestly, I saw them too late / early this morning to really address it, and then in my mind I was thinking I don't feel like it, and then it just seemed it just seemed to work out this morning as a joke, and something you just said made me think of it, and I just brought it up. But I know I don't have a clip, and I don't think it's on the run sheet that we do have, by the way. From Erica, but it just seems some silliness. Yeah,
I'm trying to find it. Someone in the chat asked, has going to therapy over this amount of time helped? Yes, it has. I had some trauma as a kid, so I started going to therapy, and then I think sticking with the same therapist has helped because she's able to see my progression over time, especially when I don't remember a lot of stuff, because PTSD makes you forget things. So I don't be remembering a lot of stuff, but she remembers. I think that's one of the reasons why I keep her. And for the people asking what's Jewish, she's not practicing. So the Jewish church here is very Zionist. So she don't fuck with them. She's very pro-Palestinian.
The Jewish church.
Yeah. What is it called? Synagogue. Sorry, the synagogue. She celebrates some of the holidays, I think, with her parents, because her parents are more practicing, but she doesn't really participate in a lot of that stuff. But I do think she understands some of the things I talk about around racism / just life in general as a marginalized person, but she knows that she doesn't experience that marginalization, which is what we talk about. So yeah.
I was just
right on
the Jewish Masonic Hall.
I could not remember what it's called because I'm not Jewish, so I don't go there. And she doesn't talk about it because she doesn't go there. So I'm what is it called?
The Jewish Lodge. Those people over there.
The synagogue. Yeah, she doesn't go there. But one of her kids went to Jewish school, and I like to ask her about that. And because I live in Memphis, which is not that big of a place, I see my therapist out with her family randomly all the time.
Wow.
Which is hilarious because she thinks I'm she treats me like I'm one of her children because I've known her for so long. So it's always funny seeing me out somewhere or just living life. It's very hilarious.
But you told her about your dating life and she didn't give you advice, and so now you're thinking about replacing her.
I'm not going to replace her, but I do wish she would just tell me what to do. I am more of a tell me what to do type of person than let's give me life advice or help guide me to the answer, which I know that's what therapists are supposed to do, but I don't care about that part. I just want her to tell me what to do. So that annoys me because when I call my mama and ask her for advice, my mama just tells me what to do. And that's what I need. I need someone to just give me a solution, and that's it. And I understand that therapists are supposed to read you for filth. She really just doing her job, but it'd be annoying me. That's all. Especially when she'd be so what was the goal here? Girl, the goal was to have dating experience.
No, that's the advice. That was the advice right there. When she asked you that because that was the goal here. Yeah, that's supposed to point you to the oh, that's the advice. That's that.
My goal was to date people and to see how I go. That was the goal. Then
you see how it went, didn't you? God damn.
It's going interesting.
Yo, you saw it. This documented. You be journaling?
I don't. This is technically the 5 minutes when we first begin the show is technically my journal and me saying it out loud.
Oh,
that's it.
And we deeply appreciate it. And but unlike Amber's therapist, we will endeavor to tell the chat what to do by reminding them to share, subscribe, support the Patreon, blackliberationmedia.org. Put this in your socials. Don't be stingy with the good time you are having right now. You should be telling everyone get in here. This is where it's at. We just heard the latest from Amber's love life. Where else will you get this kind of important beginning to your Friday morning? And yeah, producers in the chat, we get it. It's 8:19. We're running a little bit past schedule, but it was,
I got
it was,
ADHD. I don't know what time is. Let's
and
chill out.
it was a polyamorous update. It was a lot to catch up to.
Plus, we doing therapy work. We giving therapists advice about therapy. Would you recommend therapy if you still live in the environment with the people you give CPTSD?
I think that you definitely need more ongoing therapy if you're with the people that are giving you PTSD, because that will give you the tools on how to deal with that. I mean, a lot of my PTSD is from my dad, so like I still saw him and knew him, and so I needed tools to dealing with that. So I think it's perfectly fine. And in a serious update, after yelling at our new mayor, and the police chief and the data guy at the police department for a year, they put up the dashboard they were supposed to put up a year ago, like detailing all the different traffic stops. So I met with them on Wednesday. I got to see the dashboard, and it has all the information, including every officer's name as they pull people over, which is really the tea that I wanted. And all the dispositions of the traffic stops. And on Monday, we have a meeting with all the department heads for the mental health crisis response team I've been working on. So we have a crisis response team currently, and we're getting our mayor to move that under a different department out of the police department, so that police are no longer answering the mental health calls. Because I know this is the serious update that y'all want, other than my dating life, because I actually do real organizing shit. So I wrote a 12-month implementation plan for moving that department under the Office of Neighborhood Safety. And we're meeting on Monday to talk through the first steps of that plan. And if anybody else wants tips on creating a coordinated crisis response team in their city, or getting their coordinated crisis response team taken out of the police department, you can always hit me up. Because beyond my amazing dating life, I'm a badass organizer.
Get it. Well, we got some organizing questions coming up, but I think we should probably. You think we should get into a story before the crew come, and then?
Well, before we do, if I could, I do want to take a quick second here to give a shout out to the folks who have brought me up here. So where I am, so first of all, shout out to Kahindi Andrews, who's working on the documentary of Malcolm X right now. And so I got to breeze through, oh man. So first, yesterday I was in New York City, no, 2 days ago with Kahindi, doing an interview for his upcoming documentary, where it being taped in the Audubon, or the Dr. Betty Shabazz Malcolm X Center now. And at some point, I would like for there to be, I think there needs to be some more conversation about the contradictions of that space, which, as I understand it, is going to be hosting a ceremony, I think later today, where Ben Crump and Al Sharpton will be there, with Sharpton getting some sort of lifetime award. There's I'm like, there's a lot of wild contradictions with that. But so I got
that nigga don't need no more awards.
Well, he doesn't also need any more association with Malcolm X, and I don't like there needs to be some clear bright lines. Shout out to Glenn Ford to divide some of these people's politics and goals, and even if it's not to demean anyone, just to distinguish, these are not the same. So the connection is causing a problem, I think, in the consciousness politically of a lot of folks. So that's one thing. But the other thing was, I got to run into a couple homeboys from my Africana days up here, where I am now in Ithaca, where, like some folks who even at times had been derisively called Dr. Turner Cubs, the Turner Cubs, like people who wanted to be seen as being from that lineage. So we got to hang out, had a really good time, and build, and it was beautiful, and all of that. Then last night got to build with some of the grad students, undergrad, and faculty here at Cornell in association with Africana.
Not you at Cornell.
Huh?
Not you at Cornell.
Well, I went to the Africana Studies and Research Center under the directorship of its founding director, Dr. James Turner, may he rest in power. And it does happen to be housed at Cornell University. Now, as was the case last night, where we were hosted over at the Telluride spot, where I had actually never been during my time here, because I almost intentionally wanted only to be associated with Africana and didn't want to engage with a lot of the other parts of the university. And I think almost to a fault. There's some criticism to be had about that, but got to build with some really good people. Shout out to Amandla, who was the sort of the keynote host. I got to meet brother Mamadou Tal, who's got his new book out, The Malcolm Effect. And of course, these are cats folks might remember who are under various versions of harassment from the university, having their immigration status threatened, their status with the university threatened. They're in a very precarious state as it stands. So hopefully maybe later, I'll have some more information on that. But these are brilliant people, got to build with some brilliant faculty and have a really sort of nice, beautifully cooked vegan meal. Yeah, I mean, it was just it was dope. And then today is sort of the main event, so to speak. So I'll be giving a talk and be in conversation with Dr. Margaret Washington and others at the Africana Studies and Research Center. And so stay tuned for more on that too. But so yeah, it's just been dope. And then
niggas say build, I got to build with. I said y'all love saying that shit.
I do, or ground with, given the conversation we just had earlier this week with Josh and Omawale around Walter Rodney. I mean, because it really was both
of them are important. Grounded.
Yeah, and yeah.
That's how I know y'all was really doing some work. I was like, that's a build. I just know something good coming out of that.
Intellectual
I'm not
work.
judging you for being at Cornell. I was just fucking with you. Yeah. I know one of the law professors there who does the movement lawyering clinic with Law for Black Lives for them. He's really cool. His name is Carl. I don't know his last name. His name is Carl though.
All right. Well, shout out to Carl. Yeah.
I also want to take a second to say happy birthday to Elon.
That's what I was about to do. Look at you stealing my little kick. God damn.
I didn't know you was a Pisces. I want to say happy birthday to you. Oh.
Shout out to Elon.
Right on. Happy birthday.
Claudia Jones and Nina Simone. I fuck with Nina Simone real heavy.
As you should.
Well, that's what I was going to squeeze. I was going to squeeze that in there, but thank you, Amber, for doing that.
Go ahead, Geechee, finish it. What's
too late? What's
the rest of it say?
I'm done. But also, this is important because once we get after the guests come, the conversation I wanted to talk about is kind of what Dr. CBS has been writing about mutual comradeship, and I think this will be a good kind of thing in there. So once we get to that later on. Because part of her definition was saying defending people's honor and their work. And obviously you would have to do that against some of their damn children as well. So I think that was going to interrupt.
Yeah, I thought had she been on time, I would have been in the space with Ilyasa, who was later to be interviewed. And yeah, I mean, yeah. But apparently she acknowledges, I didn't realize this, she acknowledges having been, Betty apparently took them out of those spaces and had them raised in very white, affluent, private educational spaces. She's admitted to not knowing much about her father's politics. And and you go into her office today and you see pictures of TD Jakes and Hillary Clinton. And I mean, it's obviously Spike Lee gets praised in that space, so I mean, there's a lot of, and then as I said, they're hosting events with Al Sharpton and Ben Crump. So I mean, who obviously is leading them in the lawsuit, apparently that's still ongoing against the CIA, FBI, and New York Police Department. So it's.
I always find it interesting when like revolutionaries' kids don't maintain the same politics. And I also wonder what part of like trauma played a role in that, where they feel like they like don't agree. I also have this same fear about children, and I know that people are autonomous and have their own like autonomy. So like I can't want them to turn out a certain way, but that's why I don't want to have them. Because what if I had that little motherfucker and it becomes a serial killer or it's a Republican?
Oh my God.
Well, your phrasing first. I mean, damn, that's kind of how probably why. But anyway, so really quick. No, but I do think, as you think about how sometimes we might be isolated from our family. I was leading a conversation yesterday about like how most of us come into these spaces and we're like the most radical person in our family. And we know how it could possibly isolating if you can't maneuver those things. So a lot of times the family members of the deceased will literally intentionally pull you away from those things. So like me losing my best friend, his son was 4. And he turned 5 recently. He's not going to remember anything about his dad, especially not of his politics. And it's going to be intentional. So it's kind of like, it's a tough thing. And then we live in a world where, again, if Kendrick could be a revolutionary to the audience, that also means that the audience will look at us arguing with their kids and be like, you don't have no right to kind of say what they stand for. This is their seed or whatever. So it's kind of like set up to be a war that almost impossible to win.
So just quickly, because I see our guests are here, I just want to, let me shout out you, Renee, and Dr. Shakur for the discussion of the Vernon philosophy the other night, and big shout out to Claudia O'Brien, currently in the chat, and Renee again for the discussion that you all will get to see tomorrow on Saturdays with Renee. Renee's in the chat as well. Salute. And the show is another banger. So, you're welcome.
That's a good segue.
Right. Yeah.
I do agree.
All right, so here we go. No, hold up. We have production quality around here. So hold on. We'll be back with our guests right here at the Remix Morning Show.
Yo.
What up,
what
y'all?
It do, niggas?
Oh my God.
You guys are my friends.
Y'all wow.
Better introduction. So welcome back to the Remix Morning Show. You have Geechee Ya, Jared Ball, and Amber. And we are excited to welcome our 2 guests back again, Brother Jamal and Denzel. How y'all feeling? And tell us what's going on.
It's Jamel.
My bad. I be fucking up names. Jamel, my bad. I was gonna call you Gooch, but I didn't want to do that. So
No. You can call me Gooch. Like most people call me Gooch anyway. You know what I'm saying?
I was trying to be formal and shit. My bad.
No, peace, y'all. Thank y'all for bringing us back. Feels good. Trying to stay out this cold. I'm too southern for this cold. So I mean, like, listen, y'all up north got to teach us how to deal with this cold, because this right here is different. So but otherwise, I'm good.
Same here, man. I'm good. Just a cheat code, Geechee. Like throughout high school and throughout college, I went by whatever name Gucci Man was going by at the time. That's what people started calling me. So you gotta get real informal. That's
LaFlair.
The only people that can't call me that is my young people under the age of 18. They have to call me Jamel or Gucci.
Right.
I call me Gucci. All right, but on this, I'll go by any one of them names.
Word. That's
Right on. Or at least
Somebody
Mr.
asked
Gooch.
what the temperature is in the chat. It's 7 degrees
Where
I live. In Nashville, I think it's like 8 or 9, but it's 7 degrees here.
Yeah, it says it's 16 up here in Ithaca.
I'm dying.
That's wild.
Yeah.
I got 3 heaters running and the heat on.
I'm allergic to it all. But yo, so y'all got some updates. What's been happening? Yeah, tell us what's going on with the work.
Go ahead, Jamel.
So like we said, like we talked about previously, we was going into the launch of our Varsity Spending Plan campaign. We're really hoping to get that fully funded. A couple of things have happened in Nashville. Like we've had a school shooting. where the school that had the school shooting actually had AI metal detective software, and it failed. And since then, unfortunately, though, because our students, and this has happened historically throughout time, whenever Black folks have asked for things like fully funded schools or well-maintenance streets or anything that we know that produce safety, they usually just give us police. And so our young folks in Nashville were really calling for safer communities, really was what they was asking for, but they were saying it in a way of safer schools. So the district ended up putting this failed AI software across our entire school district as a way to kind of appease the parents and the students that was really calling for safety. And that will be phased in over the next 5 years. So, but with that being said, we are doubling down on a varsity spending plan, which is a proactive measure that these young people, that our youth members have come up with in coordination with our adult members to really give our young people the best chance of not only building the future that they want to see, but preventing the next one. So tomorrow, we have our 4th annual State of Black Tennessee Town Hall, where we will be bringing together not only like elected officials, but also cultural folks, people that do organizing, and really start engaging with the base. It is a base building event, right? So it's meant to bring the public in. And then once the public is in, we'll do our best to try to organize them and invite them into organization.
Right on. And just to add on to that, this is how we're trying to build that power needed for community control of our institutions. Right. The varsity spending plan, and a lot of the things that are coming up that come out of the assembly, whether it's the youth assembly or the larger Black Nashville Assembly, is a exercise of community control. So whatever comes out of that is a direct demand from working class Black folks in the city.
So I was trying to pull a link up, but it's kind of like loaded.
Which one? That's what I was asking you in the private chat. Now we got to do this in front of everybody.
My bad. The town hall, I was trying to pull it up, but it was kind of like spinning, but I just put it in the link. But yeah, so again,
which one, Geechee? There's 3 in the chat.
Oh, I didn't put 3 in the chat.
Okay, I see. Okay.
How you trying to do me?
Well, I'm saying there's 3 in the chat. Help.
Like 2 of them.
We don't have the ear doctor, huh?
Yeah. There we go.
Yeah. So this is our 4th annual. And when we first realized this event or came up with this, we realized that we needed a base building, an all-encompassing event, open invitation to everyone who wants to come throw down, or people that are just curious and asking themselves, what can I do in this moment? So this is meant to be kind of like information. This is supposed to be kind of like an information download. And so we have a diverse sector of speakers. And this year we have even the mayor coming through to give an address. And it's important to remember that even with our campaign work, what we talked about before, we talk about targets, right? Targets are the folks that can get us what we want. They're not our friends, our enemies, or our opposition. So this is also a platform for targets of our campaign to really come through and give a verbal commitment as we start the campaign. So lay the groundwork for the negotiations that we go into throughout the campaign season.
So I wonder how y'all see. So I guess your targets, or a target would be in those arena talking in public. Like, how do y'all see this being as a method of putting pressure on them, or kind of like making sure that they word match their actions?
So our varsity, and Denzel, you can just mention anything. So our varsity spending plan is around intervening on the local budget. The way our local budget is created is through the mayors. The mayor presents the local budget to the city council, and then the city council can amend the budget. But the city council historically only amends the budget by 1%. So if we know that if we have a large budgetary demand where we want our resources to go in a very specific direction, we know that our best chances are getting it into the mayor's budget. So by having the mayor come and speak to not only our base, but our well-trained members who have been a part of this budgeting process for years, we're really looking at it as like setting the negotiation table. So getting him on the record, right? Figuring out what he's saying and what he's not saying, And then that'll allow us to go back to our members, actually have some strategic conversations about where we need to apply pressure to actually get the varsity spending plan fully funded.
Yeah. And it just also provides a point of reference for the future. So even if we're having conversations where he does make a commitment to the varsity spending plan, but then goes on, let's say, to do something else that might be in direct opposition to the varsity spending plan, or the bigger, like, sort of like impetus of the varsity spending plan, which is community safety, then people will be able to see that as a point of reference. So let's say, in the future, he advocates for expansion of surveillance technology. We're able to more easily draw the connection between, like, the varsity spending plan and why that is a tool for building community control safety, and why something like surveillance technology, for example, might be in contradiction to that. So in other words, it just makes it a lot easier for us to raise any contradictions that'll come up in the future, because we'll have it on tape.
Right. One more question before I let the two greats go. So as you're talking about movement building and pushing people to a particular way, we've been having this conversation around like public policy, and we can always argue about the shit that we don't like, we're against, but can kind of speak to why it's important to speak on the policies that you are for, even if it's not public policy right now, but forming policy and getting those people in those spaces to talk the language that y'all talking as you talk about the policies that y'all want.
I'll just speak really quickly. So one of the things, and first off, shout out to you, Geechee, for the current reading that we're reading. So we're reading Professor August Nemp's ballot, Streets of Both. One of the things that is really groundbreaking for me is the idea that public policy is a reflection of what's happening in the streets and not the other way around. And so, like, with that being said, like, I think, like, one of the most powerful things that we're doing as the Black National Assembly, as a Southern Movement Committee, is like grounding people in that reality. The agenda that we're putting forth, a lot of the policy measures that do get put into place are not because of necessarily what's happening in the legislative chambers and sort of going outward. It's the other way around. It's what's happening on the outside that directly informs what's happening on the inside, whether that's the people or whether that's corporations, right? And so because of that, the work that we do in the assembly is a powerful tool to demonstrate and allow people to exercise the fact that with the decision that you make collectively, we'll be able to shape what happens in the policy chamber. And so then that, like, reframes sort of like the policy chamber as a site of struggle, rather than just some place where, the status quo will, show their goodwill or something like that. And so, like, I think something that Jamel says all the time is really, really powerful. Everything that happens or that we observe when we walk outside our door is a policy decision, right? It's a product of a policy decision. And so I think there's no way that you can really avoid that. But I think the thing that we have to keep in mind, and again, just being deeply inspired by the reading that we're reading now, is that, those policy decisions are often the byproduct of processes that happen on the outside of those halls.
I just want to say shout out my girl Zora, because she in the background acting up. Okay. Some of us don't have good, well-trained black dogs that can shut up. Like, nah. So shout out her. Some folks asked some questions in the chat that I want to ask y'all about mutual aid. Someone said, is mutual aid the most effective way to get people involved in action?
So I'm not sure. I know what at the Southern Movement Committee, Black National Assembly, Youth Assembly, I know that we do this well, right? And so the two things I want to mention is Kwame Ture talks about how we don't want to exhaust the people from doing the actual work of political struggle. So that's why we try to stay narrowly focused on kind of what we do, right? And then when we've done direct service in the past, because we know direct service in itself is not organizing, it's not doing the work to actually shift the power. When we've done direct service in the past, we have used it as a tool to heighten contradictions, to invite people into organization. And that's really also kind of how we do our policy work, and even the town hall. Everything is in step to actually bring people into organization and invite them into the space. One framing that we've been kind of talking about internally is viewing these strategies as a survival as survival programs, and using the policy intervention to really give our people the opportunity to have the best chance to survive, so that we can actually organize them into the oncoming revolution that we're trying to move towards. And this is all a process, right? And I know sometimes the process seems kind of arduous, but I think, like, for me as a student of history, we have to have a process in order to get to the more radical and bold ideas, so that the people actually have the appetite to hold it. So I'm
what
not
does arduous mean?
Rigorous, difficult,
Okay.
or
Yeah.
or like take some patience.
And so
Okay.
also real
Yeah, I do feel like they're very long processes. And I think that also is what the biggest thing that we're having issues with here is like getting folks to sustain campaigns, like understanding that this does take a very long time. And it ends up with being like only 1 or 2 people working on that campaign because people are just like, this is taking so long.
Right.
Yeah,
Mhm.
that's why we would not be here without our members. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
They actually, like, being a base building organization, which again I don't think that's for every organization to do, but we do that well.
Yeah.
Being a base building organization and really putting our folks on that leadership ladder and doing the training that we do, like it, we have the luxury of being able to have many hands, and so many hands make lightweight. And so really being collective in our movements.
So
And yeah, go ahead.
I also want to shout out Hiram because there was a time when he's all of our OG or most of our OG, but there was a time when I was like trying to figure out how to put a thing right, because me and Asafa was working on again engaging public policy and using political education. I was like, who's somebody that like explains it this way? And he was like, check out August Nips, and it was like boom. Then we brought him on the show, and it kind of speak to it. Me and Jared have been talking about for a while, and then obviously what you brothers are doing. So I definitely want to shout the OG out for that. But go
Can
ahead.
you say the name of the book, Geechee?
It's The Ballot, The Streets Are Both by August Nips. There is an interview with me, Jared, and Renee on Saturdays with Renee with August Nips. He's come to our study group a couple times, and he's kind of like been kind of a voice and a mind for us to kind of reach to as we work through the book. But one of the things that Gooch was saying, like, and I can't remember who said it, might have been Ingalls, about universal suffrage is the longer step to revolution. It's easy to be like, oh, just revolution, but this is the longer, more sure way to actually politicize the people and actually go to a heightened struggle where you actually seize power, not just programs and dope ass rhetoric, but actually struggle for power. So I appreciate that.
Yeah, he was. And in particular, he was just saying that like inside a democratic republic, that universal suffrage could be a way in which to make the battle between the proletariat and the property owners like universalized. So bring up like the highest form of raising those contradictions so that folks can understand that revolution is the only option. And so now, and what makes it funny? This type of from that framing, it helps me to better understand why some of our political ancestors here in the South, especially, had no problem or even jumped on sort of like anti-voter suppression campaigns or efforts to get the rights of folks, not only just Black folks, but folks who are incarcerated. It puts that in perspective for me, because without that, it's easy to just be like, well, why y'all working on voting? We could be doing X, Y, and Z programs, but like with that longer sort of like perspective, it makes a lot more sense.
Somebody in the chat asked about the event being online, because I asked too, because the niggas that's speaking is fine, and I was trying to make sure I can see them. It is going to be live streamed on the Southern Movement Committee's YouTube, so y'all can check that out, and we'll make sure you put that link in the chat as well. And I like how you described that, Denzel, because I think that's I think that what y'all are doing in Nashville is like a beautiful case study. And I talk to Denzel about this all the time, and Jamel a little bit too, about like how we're similarly doing some of that in Memphis, but not on such a big scale. But I think like over the next few years, it's going to be a really great case study to see like how we were able to do the things we were able to do in our budgets, and people can replicate that in other places. Because I've been saying the same thing. I was like, we can't, everything that we see outside and everything that's happening to us is policy driven, but we also have to have folks who are directly affected pushing for the policies we want. And we can't just say, you just got to vote for so-and-so. Like, we have to be directly involved with the policies that we want and the budgets that we want. And that's been really interesting because the political landscape in Nashville is totally different from Memphis. I wanted one of y'all to talk about the city council because y'all have like 40 members.
Yeah. So we have 40 city council members. We have 35 districts, five at-large council members. We have the third largest city council in the country. And the moment that our city council became so large is, it was because there were so many Black folks that lived inside of Nashville that there was a threat of a Black mayor coming up through the ranks in the early 70s. So they decided to make it into a metropolitan, which spread us all the way out. The other thing I wanted to mention, because I know there's a lot of Tennesseans on this call. One, I wanted to make sure everyone knew that everyone is invited to the town hall. Anyone who is interested, you're invited. Two, I also want to say anybody who is inspired or motivated by what we are doing in Tennessee or in Nashville, Tennessee, and you live anywhere across Tennessee, feel free to reach out. We travel to the rural spaces all the time. We got folks in Paris, Tennessee, Columbia, Tennessee, Dyersburg. We have people all over Tennessee. So for the folks that are in those rural areas, feel free to reach out in any kind of way and get word to us. And then three, if you really want to throw down in the way we throw down, I just want to say it starts with being a member of an organization. I can't say that enough, right? We did not get here by being singular individual activists, we didn't get here by not moving in a collective manner. So if you are trying to rock with us, it's important that you find an organization and a political home where you can work with a group of people to actually make some of these changes.
Yep.
No, right on. Hey, if I can, this is kind of selfishly, this is perfect timing for me because last night is part of one of the conversations that I got to be a part of was with this professor up here, Professor Mumpini Muhammad. I'm going to get her name out here because I'm very interested in her work. And she's got a book coming out in December that, and as she was telling me about it, she was talking about how the work is focused on the battle. This is my version of. We'll have to get my version. The battle between the local indigenous language media versus the imposed national English language media. Mm-hmm. And she's saying that in the sort of underground spaces where people are speaking in their local traditional languages, there's a lot of radical work happening journalistically, media-wise, but a lot of people don't see that if they're only watching the British English-based media that they get in Ghana. I hope I said the country. That's where she's talking about, Ghana. And as I was listening to her, I was thinking about the parallels as I would see them here, where technically maybe we're all speaking the similar language, but in Black and other communities, there are different ways of communicating, different languages, different uses of terms, definitions, and then there's also movement language that is often different from mainstream, corporate, etc. So I was wondering if you all could talk anything about or have experienced any of the conflict between work you're trying to do in terms of framing issues, setting terms and definitions. And then as people come in, they're coming from this frame, like for instance, if you're doing abolition in prison, they're coming in from the Law and Order, propaganda, Bad Boys, and they're thinking Will Smith, and then you got, so I don't know. So I'm just wondering if there's, if I'll ask you, do you see the parallel that I'm seeing making some sense given the work that you all are actually doing?
Yeah, So yeah, absolutely. We've seen this from jump, and one of the examples that stand out when you talk about this is just like this notion of public safety, right? So ever since we began our work, that the public discourse, and when I refer to the public, I'm just talking about local in this instance. The site of struggle in so many ways was around the definition of that term, public safety, right? Because if we go by status quo, public safety was, okay, how can we get more cops, more surveillance technology, more of these things into your schools, your neighborhoods, whatever institutions. But as we started to do our work, and actually talking to Black folks in the city, and ask them directly, well, what do you see as safety? Not once was police brought up. I mean, we do this experiment all the time whenever we're doing outreach, especially when we're tabling, where we ask Black folks, what is the one thing that keeps them safe? And we've done this for, I believe, 4 years at this point, and not once have Black folks mention police or any sort of like carceral thing that produces safety. And so, because those same Black folks participate in our assemblies and play a central role in producing the policy demands, the political platforms that we have, the solutions that come out of that, whether we're talking about the varsity spending plan or any amendment to the budget, reflects that, right? And so as a result, sometimes as a result of that, there is an attempt at, as usual from the status quo, to try to co-opt what comes from the ground, right? So you may get let's say our Office of Youth Safety, but then you get, let's say, some politicians are like, hey, that's great. Let's find a way for y'all to work with police. And it's like, no, there's a clear fundamental definition here, a difference in definition here when we're talking about public safety. And so, like, for me, I just think this just goes back to the importance of like being clear and explicit about our language, and providing like very rigorous definitions of what we mean and don't mean. And we don't leave space for ambiguity, right? So if somebody's coming into our space that is talking about public safety, that's talking about community decision making, we press the issue. What do you mean by that? What does that look like for you from your definition? So that way we're able to make clear about what we're talking about and what others are talking about.
Yeah, and I just want to mention, since we are a base building organization, like, to just add on to what Denzel said, we see that all the time, Dr. Ball, especially like for instance, very basically, right? When we say politics to people, sometimes the general public only understands politics as voting in an election, right? And so one thing we have to train our members on is like, no, politics is a way of being. It's what you believe in. It's where you are. It's where you choose to live. It's where you choose to go to school. It's every single part of your being is political. So we have to unseat that, right? And so also too, when we organize, we have, and we're not, I don't think we should dive into them here, but we're down to talk about them offline, but we have political pillars that are non-negotiables, right? So, and Denzel mentioned one, right? So when we bring folks together, even if they're not sure about the assembly process, when they come into the assembly process, one thing we try to make sure, and this is just one pillar, that you will never hear a solution come out of this assembly process that reinforces policing or surveillance as a way for Black people to get safety, right? You'll never hear that, right? And so we try to make sure that people that come to the assembly do not come in without understanding, like, these are the non-negotiables. And then lastly, one other thing that we train our members on is, one, we organize to get the goods and campaigns all the way we get those goods, right? We center campaigns around targets. Targets are individual. They are the people that can get us what we want. And then also, there's a difference between activism, advocacy, direct service, and organizing. But sometimes people use that organizer word to mean all of those things. So we have to actually talk about, there's differences in between an activist and an organizer, right? And then we can't get too far away that an organizer has to be a part of an organization. You cannot be an organizer and not a member of a larger body. So we have those basic conversations as a part of membership development when people come into our space, when they want to volunteer, no matter what they want to do, they get a piece of what I just said every single time they come in.
Oh, right on. Thanks for that, both of you.
So I had a clip of that I was trying to push Jared into answering about that thing that you just said, Gooch. And me and Comrade Quentin had this conversation, but really quick about this point about policy.
To me, I almost want to say it's sort of a false equivalence to the whole chicken and the egg thing, that because money doesn't mean anything unless there's a pre-existing organized political entity. First of all, that gives whatever would be the currency its value. And then the ability to defend and implement it. So it's the pre-existing political organization of whatever society we're talking about that determines, then economics becomes a tool of that society to manage and manipulate and organize itself.
So I again, and me and Jared talked about this a while ago, but I would love for us to go back into Dr. Amos's Blueprint for Black Power and just deal with the policy formation section, because in honesty, that's like the most important part of the book. And I think some of the things in there that you even see his limitations with understanding policy, but he still kind of laid it out how, again, you don't get to any of that shit without having some type of policy. And then in terms of being able to force that on other people's to engage in that policy to achieve the social order or interest that you have, it takes some level of policy, right? And so I think it's important to have that conversation with people, because all they do is think about, oh, it's just voting or politicians or shit like that.
This has been the most successful way that me personally that I've been able to engage with the Black business entrepreneur folks. It's like, your business is going to be defined by policy. If there's a tariff on a raw import that you have to make candles out of, then your candles are going to go up. And because you're Black, most of the people that buy your candles are going to be Black folks, because we want to support each other. And so because of that, if they can't afford your product, then they're not going to be able to keep you in business. Therefore, you're going to close. And so this has been that simple idea has been how we have been able to even take some of our Black business entrepreneur, small business type of folks and start building a relationship with them, with hopefully turning them towards something that is more productive to the people and less exploitive towards the people, right? Is trying to heighten that contradiction that was just mentioned in that last clip.
Right.
Yeah, listen, that's cool.
Yeah. Well, it's listen.
Clip that, Geechee, that part.
I'm clipping it too. But so even as you think, like there's policy that draws up you being able to only engage in particular industries where you have to sell products and maybe services, those same products that you blame Black people for throwing their money away, right? So in order for people to support your business, they gotta throw their fucking money away, and then you up there complaining about throwing. So yeah.
Right. And see, like, and this is where I'm like, this is a process, right? So before we start talking about means of production, they got to get that first. Like, that's going to be that very first causality. This creates this, is going to affect you in this way. They have to master that before we can even start talking about, okay, now we need to control the means of production to make sure our society isn't, you know what I'm saying? So, yeah.
Yeah. And then once you get there, then you can get to that conversation about, okay, I hear a lot of our folks talking about they want to be collective, they want to be cooperative, but you're using business models that center like the individual or something like that. What does it look like? For example, a lot of y'all selling shea butter and whatnot. Why don't y'all come together and create a co-op where y'all all are owners, worker owners, and able to like talk more collectively about how to, provide this service in a way that's actually cooperative, not just in word, but in practice. So,
and if I,
like Jamel said, it's steps.
And if I could translate that to how we can say that to business folks. If you are somewhere and it's a whole bunch of businesses, tell them to start thinking about merging. Because if there's 5 people that do the same thing, why not merge and have one company with 5 employees, right? That also allows them to capture more. That's basic business. But then we can start talking. Once they start considering merging, then that's when Denzel can come in and say, okay, this is how you set it up cooperatively, where all of you all can reap the same benefits because you all are partners. But so some of those words, and we talked about this before, and Dr. Ball just talked about this too. It's like we have to be able to transform those complex ideas and narratives to hit them on their front porch. So it may not sound like extremely leftist, or it might not sound like the most radical Malcolm X clip or Fred Hampton clip, but it's going to move them, which is what we need to do. We need to slowly start moving folks over to our side.
But it's not going to sound like that because what?
You just don't read, beloved.
Please. I want to go back to something that Denzel said.
My bad. Just real quick. Just please call me Jared, though, by the way. Please. And I even changed my name on the
They
thing.
might want to try to call him Jared so bad. Damn.
I said he with the people.
We get it.
Thank you.
That man said, I don't claim my PhD like that. Let's chill out.
No, but listen.
I want to go back to something Denzel said about when you get these wins, or when y'all are working with the city council or whatever, and they try to like co-opt things, and like some of the practices y'all find work the best. Because I mean, they've done similar stuff like that here, and I find that when we just remain militant and produce a plan of exactly what we want, and then they can't like sway from that. Like our city council, for example, was like, oh, we love your moral budget coalition. You know, we do think we should do participatory budgeting. Let's put together a participatory budgeting survey and plan. I was like, no, it's fine. We can do that. Actually, we can do all of that. We can put it all together and we'll present it to you. Because when they take stuff over, then they're going to put it on the city website and then just say everybody want a police, and then we're not going to do nothing different.
I mean, yeah, like I mean, part of our assembly work includes not only the political and civic education for people to understand how these things work, these processes work, but you know, that process also makes it easier for our folks to identify whenever an agenda that we created gets co-opted. It's obvious, right? So, you know, using the varsity spending plan, we understand that the varsity spending plan includes Office of Youth Safety that is by design not working with police, cops, or courts, right? So anytime our base sees any effort to attach that to police, cops, or courts, our folks will be like, hey, that's not what we created, right? And so like what I say that to say, when we're in a constant process of political and civic education with our people, it won't take it won't take a heavy lift. It'll be a very light lift for us to be able to see whenever we're being co-opted, because oftentimes in the past, well, what happened is because we're not going through that constant process of learning and practice, you get only a handful of people that have a sharp analysis to understand what's happening, but they're having to do the work of convincing the people and also trying to undo the co-optation at work, which results in a failure. But if you're constantly engaging in that collective work, people are going to see it coming and they're going to be able to deal with it immediately.
Mm-hmm. That's true. And then if I can add one piece, this is also where, in addition to consistently doing that, what Denzel was talking about, this is where the negotiation piece comes into play. Like and everybody's not built for the negotiation table. And one thing when you're a part of an organization and you have members, one good thing at the organization table is that if there's ever a decision where it's moving too fast, you can always say, hey, we got to check in with our members before this, right? And so like the negotiation table, which includes people who are trying to co-opt us sometimes, right? Which, you know, we don't send the crash outs to the negotiation tables, right? We send the folks that can have that conversation when they need to have that conversation. And that has been the most successful, right? Because even in the South, before you do anything campaign wise, before you go at anybody, what they're gonna ask you is, did you talk to them? And if you can't answer yes to that question, no matter who they are, you've already put yourself in a bad, precarious position with the people. And so direct negotiation has been a great countermeasure, but then proactive, it's also been in the co-governance model. It's consistently working with in meeting and developing relationships with inside players, and bringing our base along with those relationships and making sure that those inside players, which were targets, are then turned champions of the campaign.
Yeah, I think the co-governance model is really important, and we've kind of seen that here, like with the organizers here who are building like within our current mayoral administration and really pushing for like the policies that we want by working with those people, but also organizing outside of that. Someone also had a question about co-ops that I thought you could answer, Denzel. And I think you should go ahead and teach a course about solidarity economy to help the people. But they said, do you have any experience working with bike messenger cooperatives? And would you have any advice on people making collectives?
So I to answer that immediate question, I have not had any experience directly with that co-op. And just to kind of give y'all some perspective, my experience with co-ops have come from not direct experience, but just by being in community with folks who have co-ops. And then just doing the political education around that. So I have not had those direct experiences, but what I can offer from conversations with folks who are building co-ops, who've been in co-ops, who've seen some of the ups and downs. I think it's important when you're trying to build a collective to have a group of people that will be dedicated to sitting and learning together. And the reason I say that, in so many ways, it parallels organizing, because in many ways, like putting together a co-op, you're going to do a lot of organizing, because we live in a capitalist society that discourages that type of behaviors, particularly if it's attached to a larger political project. So like I would say the first thing is you definitely want to have a group of people who are going to be involved in that co-op that need to learn together and get in the practice of learning together. I think the second thing too is be clear about your decision-making processes, because like getting into a collective, getting into like a venture like that is going to require some really clear communication. It's going to require some deep muscles for struggle. Because there's going to be a lot of moments where, you're going to have to make a decision and it's not going to be easy. But you have to get used to that. And I would just say beyond that, attach it to a larger political project. Like I'm not, one thing that's clear from my end is like, I'm never going to ask folks to engage in that type of work and then not be attached to a larger political project, because, if you're just doing a co-op here or, some other solidarity economy project there without it being a part to a larger struggle for liberation, then you're just doing some, gentrifier capitalism or something like that. So, I mean, like, it's really, it doesn't have its teeth or its potency if you're not also attaching it to a larger political project.
So I want to shout out to my brothers Guap and the Ninja Zell. I appreciate y'all coming through. Anything else y'all want to kind of drop on us before y'all know? I know we only had y'all for.
I have one last question, Geechee.
Well, all right. Listen,
it's a very simple question.
Did you hear me say Zell is a ninja? Like,
I'm not worried.
Mess on the brother time if you want. Get kicked in your
The
throat.
niggas in the chat is action. Where do y'all send the crash outs? And as a crash out in my head, but not in action, I do also want to know, where do y'all be sending the crash outs?
Not to be discussed on Black Liberation Media.
Well, I'll say this. Disciplined crash outs is who we need. We don't need the reckless kamikaze. We don't no, because we need crash outs that are willing to obey organizational discipline and have a bit of political maturity and understand that sometimes you need a velvet glove on an iron fist. Everything ain't a nail and we ain't all hammers. So the crash outs come into strategy, but again, we're not crashing out in a way that's going to destroy every single bit of social credibility amongst our base. We're not going to do that. And so if you're looking to get that energy off, that's not what a Black National Assembly is. But if you're looking to move into discipline, into organizational maturity, into coalition and alliance, Southern Movement Committee, we in Tennessee, and we ready for you.
Period.
It is.
I also think the fear of me crashing out just scares people enough to let me be heard in rooms, because I think they just scared of what I might possibly do, but they don't know what it could be.
Jared, I just now noticed you put please call me Jared in your that's wild work. Anyway, but no, like I don't know if y'all had more time, y'all are welcome to stay. I just
Absolutely.
be honest of y'all of time, because I know we wanted, like, the topic that we talking about will be good for y'all to be into also, but yeah.
I think y'all should stay, because budgets and policy is my favorite thing to talk about, because we're gearing up for our, we're doing the same thing right now. So like we're getting our meetings set up with the mayor's office, working with the only difference is that because we got money for specific funding under certain departments, we're working with those department heads to get their data together to ask for double or triple what we asked for before, so we can have it already in the mayor's budget, because part of the money we got was actually directly from the mayor. It wasn't from the city council. And I found it was way easier to get money from them than it was the city council. And I know you mentioned that, Jamel. Can you talk about like what that's been like for y'all? Any kind of like organizing y'all done with Mayor O'Connell, or like how y'all kind of came to that conclusion?
Yeah, so it's also important to know your local system. You know what I'm saying? So this is Nashville, Davidson County's local system. Everybody's budget is not the same. You know what I'm saying? Everybody's budget is not created the same. But it's important before entering into any budget struggle that you master how your local budget is created. So in Nashville, the mayor presents his budget or their budget to city council. City council has the ability to amend the budget. They usually only amend it by 1%. And then they have a vote. That vote so the budget that's amended by city council can pass through a majority vote. But if the city council cannot agree on the substitute budget coming out of city council, then the mayor's original proposed budget goes into effect. So Nashville we always have a budget no matter what. Before our budget is passed, though, we have what we call a capital improvement spending plan, which is passed before the budget to orient the city over the next 10 years to what its spending priority is. One time when we were doing, and this was crazy, one time we was doing budget work like 4 years ago, we found out the MNPD had put in like a Metro Nashville Police Department had put in like a $30 million capital improvement spending for like 4 Tomahawk Apache helicopters, something really crazy, right? And we was able to tell folks like, this is what MNPD is planning to spend this money on over the next 10 years. These helicopters, right? And again, heighten the contradictions. So that's how that's been. As far as the Mayor Freddie O'Connell, he's a target, right? So we don't work direct. Our organization has not taken any money from government bodies. He is not a member of this organization, right? But since we're doing budgeting work, he is the person that we negotiate directly with. So our relationship is predicated on the negotiation of the campaign as a target. Now, if he becomes a champion, that's different, right? And then when we've worked with local city council members, like Councilperson Delicia Porterfield, she has become a champion of the varsity spending plan. Oftentimes, organizations don't have an inside-outside game. I think we have found our balance as far as doing that, just out of practicing this science and making mistakes along the way.
Yeah, I definitely have seen that like replicated here a little bit. Because I mean, our mayor is a target. Like, I'm trying to get what I need out of you. And I think there is a fine line of that. I did a training a few weeks ago about helping folks learn where's the escalation point. Because I do think that's important too. Like when you're power mapping your targets and like picking out the folks that you want to target, like how do you know where to escalate? And I know that y'all have talked about this with your membership. and we talked about this a little bit, Jamel, too. Like, how do y'all power map that out? Like, do you create the steps ahead of time? Are you doing it in real time?
Denzel, you want to hop in there?
Go to can you repeat that again?
I was saying, like, when you're trying to figure out how to move forward with the target, like how to escalate, are y'all mapping that out ahead of time with your membership, or are you moving in real time? Like, how are y'all putting that together, basically?
Yeah. So like Jamel said, we're always in constant communication with our membership. Because that is like one of the key ingredients to the Black Nashville Assembly in no matter what phase of the campaign or escalation we're in. We utilize an sort of a staircase approach to escalation. So we're not going from 0 to 100. Like we're not doing that. We're not doing that. We have to again, the central part of this is going with our people, right? Because if we jump ahead of our folks, then we've done something wrong. Right. And so part of what we're doing, like Jamel said, we here in the South, first thing we do, we go talk to them. Like, hey, this is who we are. This is what we're trying to do. Da 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 da. We initiate that conversation. You know, we come back, we're not getting any energy. Then we go to the next phase. All right. So we're talking to the people around you. All right. We're talking to people in your office. We're talking to people in other spaces. We're bringing more of our folks there. You know, and in between these steps, we're actually talking and communicating and relaying things and with our base. And then from there, you know, hey, okay, we expand that scope. Now we go into the public or outside. Okay, we've been in conversation here. We've been in conversation with your folks. You know, the public, hey, this is what we're trying to do. This is what we need the mayor to do. Let's just using the mayor as an example. Okay. And then it builds from there, right? So if you ever get to a point where you see us engaging in, you know, some sort of like very public, let's say direct action, many steps were taken before that moment, and our folks in our base are in alignment with us. So you're never going to see an instance where we do a thing and our base has no idea what's happening, right? Our base, like when we come out, we're going to come out deep, right? Because we don't move without having those conversations with our base. And so that's just kind of like just a little bit of a sort of a glimpse of our ladder. And Jamil, I don't know if you wanted to add anything to that.
Yeah, I knew that, but I wanted you to say that, Denzel, because I think it's important. Because to me, it sounds like there's a lot of people in the chat who really want to either try this where they live or learn more about it. So I think it's important to like go into even some of the details of escalation of tactics, like Hiram said in the chat, or like how y'all, you know, come to that. Which is why I asked the question.
I mean, also to Gooch's point, sometimes I guess from online to organization, people do join an organization because they think they about to get into some action tomorrow because they just been to a march up the street, and that's not how it works. So I'm glad you laid that out.
And I think in the height of like these uprisings that we have over the last few years, people have gotten into the like practice of, oh, we just finna go to a protest, we finna do this and this, and so they aren't used to like what we've done here of like, hey, yeah, we did this one protest for Tyre Nichols, but like here's how we're moving into policy. Here's how we're moving into accountability. Here's how we're taking money out of the budget for police. Like they weren't prepared for that because what we've seen through the George Floyd uprisings is that we just finna go to protest every day. And so they don't see like the actual steps after that of what we can get going. And I think that was kind of a shock for some people here. It was like, I don't feel like going to these city council meetings and having to explain to them, like, this is where we get the things that we want. You don't want them to pull you over for a loose bumper anymore. You don't want them pulling you over for late registration. We have to get an ordinance passed to do that. And fully explaining that to our membership and then getting them activated, which also takes some political education. And I know niggas don't be reading, so sometimes it's hard to, you know, explain that to them. So taking all of those steps to get where we need to be, and it's a long process.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know if we had stories, but I actually want to pivot into this conversation that we're alluding to mutual comradeship. But so I've been in a lot of spaces and I always hear like there's a difference between friends and then comrades. And I would love to hear all of y'all response to like, how do you kind of see the difference between a friend and a comrade and how those people might be treated differently or how you might engage them differently? And maybe you might even want to throw in a community member at large, one of which you're organizing in. But yeah, all of y'all, please share how you kind of see friends versus comrades.
So yeah, I'll take a crack at it first. So for me, like when I'm thinking of a friend, I'm thinking of somebody who I have built in a personal relationship with through many phases of my life. Right. And so this goes even beyond like my political development. This is somebody who, just through doing life, we come together, through some experience. We go through many experiences. We share we might share some values here and there, but like it's mostly just through life experience and then like a kind of a commitment to each other. I think when you talk about comrade, there's an explicit value alignment that's there. And that to me is a wide umbrella of different relationships. I don't necessarily have to be your road dog to be your comrade, right? If you and I are in struggle together to combat this, colonial order, we could be anything. We could be cool, but we could also just be folks that know each other, aware of each other's organizations, the work we're doing, and looking for opportunities to collaborate when it makes sense. But I think comrade is a bit of a wider spectrum of different relationships that it can take. You can be a friend and be a comrade. I think, and I've been listening to different takes on comradeship, is particularly here on Black Liberation Media. I think I do fall into that camp of I don't think you can hate somebody and call them a comrade. I think there's a certain, yes, I'm shout out to Dr. CBS. I think there's a certain element of amicableness or that comes with that being a comrade. But I do think it's a wider spectrum of relationships, in my opinion.
I would agree. I would say that me and Denzel started off as comrades before we were friends. Mainly, I knew him from like organizing stuff, but now we cool because he married my friend. So now we're locked in, and they be needing me for dog advice. But I would say like most of the time, the people who we're organizing with, like in I'm only in 2 orgs here, but in one of the orgs I'm in, it's got a lot of white people in it. They're my comrades, but I'm not friends with them people. Like we do some organizing shit together. We go to some city council meetings. We do some policy stuff, but we're not friends. And they understand that. Like they understand I don't fuck with white people like that. So they get it. And I think that's like where the dividing line is for me.
For me specifically, I view comrade as like we are fighting against like in pretty much this article, like we are fighting against white supremacy. We are trying to develop marginalized communities, and we're trying to really build power inside of our communities. So I'm as a on the ground community organizer, I'm consistently trying to convert family and friends into a level of comradeship, right? I don't really that's what I'm trying to do. You know what I'm saying? Like I said this before, like I don't try to turn it off. So if I'm out at a party and somebody wants to develop a friendship as an organization, it's on me to invite them into comradeship, which I see as the organization. And so that's kind of how I view it, as just like different phases of relationships, right? Because I'm trying to develop my friendship into a comradeship where you decide to actually pick up the struggle against white supremacy.
Jared, what you got?
Yeah, I was trying to think how I was, or if I could contribute to this discussion. I think there's been a lot of important theorization of this subject and not enough implementation and practice of it. I've heard a lot of discussion about mutual comradeship. Mao's combat liberalism comes up all the time, and I just don't see it practiced. I see, even in Dr. CBS's important summary here, reference to institution building, debate, and I see more. I see debate leading more towards institutional collapse than evolution and advance. Criticism and disagreement leads to isolation and cliques, as opposed to elevated comradeship. That's what I unfortunately feel like has been taking over, and maybe in my own limited experience. So
Yeah.
I was trying to find it real quick. I always forget the exact language, but Cabral, I always liked what he said about the difference between comrade and friend, and elevating comrade above even family member, if I remember correctly. That you can't, because family is imposed. It's you just born into it. But comrade is built out of actual behavior and practice.
Mhm.
And so, and that fit well, as for the most part, an only child, and all that kind of stuff. I was like, all right, that works. You know what I'm saying? Like, there's not this large family around me, so the idea of everybody's got to be a comrade, basically. You know what I'm saying? Like but I like that because So, but I in my own humble, even my own failed and easily criticizable behavior, I think that I would just want to encourage all of us to practice more of this, the brilliant theorization around it.
So I wonder if one could, or we could get to, I guess, authentic comradeship. I keep wanting to say comrade, without having a really good container of like principle struggle. Because as you said, like it is like debates or arguments and easy like clickism. And then I think Craig had this question: is how does comradeship develop outside the context of the vessel of a party? And I know that there's a lot of times we will be explicit in saying we're not a party. Maybe it's because our inability or undesiring to struggle with policy. But yeah, I wonder if that's a question y'all think about.
But the way I understand it, I don't think it. I think a political organization or party would be best, but I don't think it's necessary to define a comrade relationship. Again, just thinking anecdotally, my own experience. I mean, I've been in what I would consider comradeship with people that is specific to a certain situation, and then we go our separate ways. We might see each other in the whirlwind, so to speak, and I would recognize them as a comrade. And maybe if some other cause came to be, I would expect that they would behave a certain way, and vice versa. But based on that political act that we were in together in that moment, it's like a quick salute, nod your head, fist up, keep it moving. But even if we're going in different directions, but I see them as a comrade. And maybe then there are just stages and levels to it. I don't think it automatically needs that vessel, but
Yeah. If I can kind of back up Jared real fast, I think like and that's kind of similar to what I was going to say. I do think it's extremely difficult to develop a comradeship type of relationship with somebody when we're in the age of, I think we're at the height of the individuality, right? Like oftentimes when we even are looking for coalition partners or collaborate with other organizations, sometimes we have to go through and explain like a sole proprietorship LLC is not an organization. I'm sorry, it's not. It's not a membership-based organization, so we can't collaborate with you, right? And so I do think like the party structure, the organizational structure, even members of different organizations jamming out on campaigns, provide a vessel or a container to offset the individuality, which is the culture, which makes, I think, developing the comradeship easier. Because me personally, without the organization, I don't develop comradeship with folks because I think we are just in the height of individuality. Like you can create a whole world based on the individual. So I think we that are called to this struggle at this time have to be very intentional about setting a container for collectivism and community so that those comradeship relationships can actually be developed.
Yeah, I definitely think there's levels to it, which I have worked to really master over the last few years, especially after we had like a huge influx of organizing happening here. Because like there were so many groups popping up. And I'm like Denzel, I feel like all of us need to come in together and make one group. I'm not finna be in 5 different organizations. I'm not doing all that shit. But also, how do I decide if I want to be cool with you? Because a lot of folks see organizations or like joining a org as like building family and building friendships, and not understanding that like, no, it's more like a comradeship. And it could maybe turn into a friendship, but like first we're really just organizing together. And I think that we really struggle through that because a lot of times people will think because we're in an organization together and have similar beliefs, then we're automatically friends. And they couldn't understand like why I won't tell them personal things about myself, or like why I won't tell them what neighborhood I live in. I don't know you. Like, we're not buddies. We're just organizing on the same issue. And I would say that we're comrades, but I would not say that we're close like that. And I think that some people struggle with that because they do really look to organizations for building up like friendships with people, because they don't have that either in their normal life, or that this is where they really want to build friendships with people who have the same ideology as them, which I understand. And I think that some people really do struggle with how they navigate that. And I do think that I don't see people struggling as much back and forth as I think they should. Like, I don't believe a lot of the same things as other people. And I'm willing to struggle through that with folks. I'm willing to have the conversation. But I find a lot of folks in orgs do not work well with people who don't have the same exact beliefs as them. And that's not realistic.
I wonder, this is when Brittany says, is it a wrong view of left organizations that there is a coldness among group members, like even more cold than white corporations with their forced fake friendliness?
Yeah. So what I was going to say, what came to mind, and Amber kind of brought this up for me, is I think for me it's a trust issue. And I think coalition is a higher level of like Jared was saying, like coalition. I mean, comradeship is a higher level than friendship and family, right? Because we are struggling against an empire together. So one thing that also comes to mind is, and Denzel, and like we do this at the assembly piece, is we ask people, who are your people? Because we need to know who are you coming from? You know what I'm saying? Like, who are your crowds that you are around? Who are you bringing into this space? Who has taught you? Who has leaned you in here? And I think without that level of transparency, I think it's going to be difficult for us to achieve the relationship bond that's going to allow us to take risks together, because that's what we are doing. When we struggle against the empire, we are risking things. And it's hard for me to take risks with the homies if I don't know who you are, where you come from. And quite frankly, with my security mind, even the Black National Assembly, when we have been infiltrated by non-good faith actors that have revealed themselves, it was the folks that wouldn't tell us where they were from or where they came from or who they people are. You know, Ella Baker, when building out SNCC, where we get our real one-on-one training from, that historical ancestor, that's what she would start the conversations with. Who are your people, right? Because it's important to know who you're bringing into the space. So I think that's one thing with comradeship for me. I think we have to develop that between each other so that we can actually take risks against this empire that we're organizing against.
Yeah. And I think in direct response to the question that was put on the page, like I would go so far as to say that I think that is I think that coldness you might be referring to is something that we got to struggle out of, right? I don't think comradeship, when in its highest form or as it's being developed, is looks like that or mirrors, orgs and formations, or really the status quo that's to the right of us. Like, I think, especially, I'm thinking of how I have seen organizing not only here in the South, but also in the global South, right? When I think of Cuba, when I see organizers in Nicaragua and other places, like that sense of like community is like, it's almost like indistinguishable between community and comradeship. from my experience. And I think that, to Jamel's point, has been like a byproduct of people being in deep conversation with each other, getting to know each other as they're doing the work at the same time, to where that sort of like line between comrade and community is almost non-existent, right? But I think due to like our conditioning here in this right-wing country, where everything's about individualism, trying to get one off on the next person, trying to get your platform off, trying to do all of these very anti-community things, I think the byproduct of that, when we don't struggle through that explicitly, is like sort of like this coldness that not so coincidentally mirrors like corporations and stuff like that. So I almost would even say that's a misnomer to even though it's happening in left spaces, I would think it's a misnomer to attach that inherently to these spaces, because if we're actually trying to practice these things, like Jared said, like I think it would look fundamentally different in practice.
Go ahead, Jared.
I don't have. I'm following the private chat. So go ahead and you know, do your thing.
Why y'all keep catching that man off guard?
No, you know what? I thought Jamel was Jared when it says, "Can I say one more thing?" My bad.
See.
Go ahead.
See?
Gucci Man LaFleur.
No, you all good. That's just like, that's what they call me in the neighborhood. I don't know what to tell you. Like, that's what they call me. Like, that's fine. That actually makes me feel more at home. But yeah, I just wanted to say that, like, I think the comradeship is a high level of movement. And oftentimes, you know, conflict is the detriment to all of our movements and campaigns, right? But I think a higher level of comradeship allows us to see the humanity in each other, to even set the container for political struggle. But again, for me, it is a trust thing. Like I need to, in the South, if we in Nashville, this ain't that big of a city. Even in Tennessee, it ain't that big of a state. I need to know who your peoples is before I'm starting to hit that front line with you. Like I'm not gonna lie. You know what I'm saying? I need to know who your people is. I need to know if you've been tested under the same fire I've been tested under. I need to know that, right?
And it really shouldn't be that hard to identify either.
For sure.
And at this point either, especially with all the social media and digital footprints. I mean, if people are being at all honest with any of their work, you should be able to pretty quickly see where people are. And then if you ask them a pointed question, you know, it shouldn't be that difficult. So yeah, and it shouldn't be a problem to want to share that. Because exactly, and you're not being asked to give up your address and your security code and the PIN to your homes. What, you know what I mean? You're being asked, like, what is your political, ideological, communal, organizational line? And everybody should be able to say. And if you're just starting out, it should be, I'm building one. You know, I'm signing up. You know, I'm coming out of whatever job or school or whatever. I'm trying to get in, and then just and go from there. Yeah.
So one of the things that I appreciate about the article or the piece that Dr. CBS wrote was that it had a level of vulnerability and kind of like rough drafting. I like rough drafting with people. Anybody who's talked to me one-on-one know I be doing that shit. But one of the first one was effective practice of freedom constituted by the enduring commitment to advocacy for and protection of those engaged in radical political struggle. And then she went into a mutual support of radical organizations, institutions, periodicals, and provisions of jobs and income for persons whose politics deem them undesirable as employees. But then as she keep going, there was a part where I think maybe she might even end it to this also entails the literal and intergenerational, a practice of legacy maintenance, including archiving, commemoration, public remembrance, and truth telling. So we kind of like highlighted it earlier when Hiram brought up the politics, but also policy of Malcolm's daughters and maybe King's children and whoever else, right? Who would tell a story different than us on the left, if we are on the left, then their kids will tell it. So what do y'all think about even truth telling, and maybe, as my brother Kai tells me, how important is it for us to archive our work and our thoughts and these things so that our story can probably be captured in a more favorable way than our churn will sell that shit off for. But what's your thoughts?
Yeah, I'll just be real quick with this. I think like history is an ongoing process. And so like even in this moment, like it's occurring, it's being made. And so I think if we take that seriously, I think especially as we're doing liberation work, archiving and doing that memory work should be on our highest priority list, because a big reason why we go through a lot of the problems and struggles that we're experiencing is because of the intentional cutting off from our umbilical cords, from our historical memories, right? Whether it's the disappearing of revolutionaries into prison, or the actual like burning of like certain texts and ideas and thinking and histories of people that have been erased. Like a lot of those things, are important for us to understand where we are now, because we've been here before. Like, I mean, we've been in, like, I think Daruba said it best, like, with history don't rhyme, but it sure does repeat itself. But it doesn't repeat itself, but it sure does rhyme. My bad. And so, like, I think memory work is critical. And so, like, if we're not doing that, we're gonna find ourselves, or our descendants are gonna find themselves back at square one, making the same mistakes, or again, as Daruba said, reinventing failure.
So, as my last question before we close out, some folks want some book recommendations from both of y'all. So, can y'all give your top 3 book recs right now? We know you got 80 million on the shelf, Jamel.
Well, you got a couple in the chat, in our own private chat here.
Yeah.
The Ballad, the
And Zell
Streets,
still gotta
Both,
say it.
August
You still
Nips.
gotta
You
say
got
it out loud.
Laundering of Black Rage from 2 Black. Yeah, but go ahead. Yeah.
Go ahead, Jamel. I'll do my next.
I want to say like one book that like I refer to often when it comes to organizing is Ella Baker and the Black Freedom Movement. I refer to that's the one that I kind of crack open all the time. And then the one that I'm reading right now, because I'm kind of exploring more ideas around raw minerals that come out of Africa. I'm reading a book that's called Cobalt Red. And it's about like raw minerals coming out of the Congo. So those are 2 books. Like the second one is a little bit more advanced, but that first one, I think everyone who aspires to be an organizer should have a copy of that.
Yeah, that's one of my favorites. When people ask me like, what do I suggest reading, I always say that book first. And Paying Slow, Respectful Work, I think is really good too. And Cabral, I really love Cabral. I'm from Guinea-Bissau. That's where my ancestors are from. So I actually liked Cabral before I knew that, but now I'm like deeper into it since I found that out. So I love a good Cabral book too.
Amber, how you want to answer and ask the question?
Because I'm Amber. Let's move on. Denzel, you're next.
Yeah. So we talked about August Nips, the Ballad, The Streets Above. I think that's good for folks who are on the left who are still trying to get a grounding in like their relationship to electoral politics. What does it look like to engage politics in a revolutionary way? And so I think that's good. You'll see a lot of parallels to now. I think that book is a perfect toolbox for when the next liberal tries to tell you that having these politics is a privilege, or tries to gaslight you into thinking that you should be on the center and try to, move in that way. I think it's perfect for that. I think the second book, shout out to 2 Black, Laundering Black Rage, is a pretty good text for understanding the phenomenon of 2020. Why, in so many ways, that was a moment of counterinsurgency. And that it's no coincidence that you see certain organizations like being popped because of the sort of influx of resources that were put in that particular moment to sort of like further destroy any possibility of revolutionary or leftist formation. I think the third book. So forgive me, Jared. Like I was going to bring up Myth of Black Buying Power because of course that's dope. But I think it would be dope for people to look into Myth of Black Capitalism by
Earl Ofari.
Yes, by Earl Ofari, because I think what I really appreciate about that text is that it really lays out a history of showing the reality that we've been here with some of these conversations before. I mean, going all the way back to like the end of chattel slavery. You know, you have the free Black population trying to create this sort of like notion that there are two separate economies in order to maintain their position in this order, right? You see how that is the ancestor of, you know, your Black entrepreneurs now trying to push the myth of Black buying power, and how that depoliticizes us in so many ways and prevents us from moving toward more of a Kwame Ture sort of politic, you know, as opposed to you know, embracing this sort of Nixonian definition of Black power. So like I definitely would recommend Myth of Black Capitalism as my third read.
And no, I've said all along that my work is a child of that and other works, and the reissue of it is important because Ofari says again that it's still happening and it's still wrong and it's still a mess and it's still, you know, if for nothing else, he just comes back to say, yeah, I was right then and I'm right now, and so yeah, absolutely.
So somebody in the chat asked about the Amilcar books. I realized I didn't say any actual names. I'm sorry. So the one I think about the most is Tell No Lies, Claim No Easy Victories. And if y'all were here, folks watching were here when we played that song I made for my birthday, there's this line where I said Amilcar taught us claim no easy wins. And that's where that comes from that book.
So I need y'all to play this funny clip before we leave and let me know if this is an example of mutual comradeship.
I love you, Ma, to the bottom of my heart. And I die for you, Ma. Me too. Die. What am I supposed to do? What?
Like, what you got to say? Don't worry about it.
He said, we ain't fighting the same fight. Die. No, I'm not about to die. My bad.
He said y'all taking it too far.
I ain't signed up for that shit. I ain't gonna love you that much.
I thought we was making a cute little video.
My man skipped orientation. He said, hold up.
He said, die.
So real quick before we do wrap up, what's everybody what's coming up for the weekend? What's any quick reminders? What's happening? Where we at? What's going on?
The event.
We have our 4th annual State of Black Tennessee Town Hall. All family is welcome. Everybody is welcome and invited. We'll be live streaming it via our YouTube page. It'll be happening from 1 Central to 3 Central. Now, one thing about us is we try to run it on time. Okay, so just know that we're gonna try to keep it to 2 hours. It's going to be a lot of information, a lot of download to set us up for what the year looks like when it comes to organizing in Tennessee. So really looking forward to it. And also, if you are in rural Tennessee or if you are outside of Davidson County, we pull up on community members all the time. We're gonna be in Columbia not too soon. So please feel free to reach out in any capacity if you want this type of training, if you want to learn from us, if you want to hop on a Zoom call to better develop something. Just know that we're going to talk about turning towards your neighbor. So let's work.
So if you niggas don't want to talk to each other, it's not it. I'm just being honest. This weekend, I'm going on a date. We're gonna see how that goes. Also,
what's new? Shit, God damn. God damn.
I hate it. I'm also going to the car dealership to see if they're gonna pay for the rest of my car and I can get a new one. But I hope the car dealership guy knows if I don't get the exact price that I said I wanted on the phone, I'm going to leave. I think they can finesse me, but he didn't finesse me the first time when I bought the first car. So we're gonna see how I go for him. Because he called me yesterday talking about something. Yeah, I want to tell you congratulations on your new car. I said, I'm not getting nothing if the car payment ain't exactly the same. And I told you that they be trying to finesse. So we're gonna see what happened on Saturday when I go up there.
So listen, everybody, please, in addition to doing all the things you should do to support the platform, a couple things I wanted to highlight. One, the biggest of salutes again to Dr. Orasami Burton for his rejection of that award. And please check out the last episode of LSR where you can see him talking about it with Dr. CBS and Layla Brown. And ultimately the point being, that's what they get for not reviewing my book. That's really what it is. So I'm glad they didn't review it. Now you can't review it. How about that? Now you can't, you're not allowed, No, but seriously, big salute to him. And I believe there's some others that follow suit. And to those that went on and took the awards, I think that's important that be recognized as well. You know what I'm saying? So, but big shout out to Dr. Burton for that. Please make sure, I believe there's going to be Darker Than Blue later with Jackie Lukman, and Ori might be showing up there again too. I'm not sure. So if for no other reason, come back for that. Please don't miss tomorrow, Saturdays with Renee, featuring Claudia O'Brien, a great conversation about the lies of immigration, and then Warrior Class Sundays with the Ear Doctor, and then and if you all are around, come through for, I believe there's going to be a Saturday Night Live tomorrow night over on I Mix What I Like, so come hang out over there as well, and then back Monday morning with a new week, holding it down. So
if you're in Atlanta Saturday, come out to the Murph from 12 to 2. There'll be a bunch of organizations out there spitting their shit, so you can come and see what the people doing.
So I'm talking about Dr. Orasami Burton's, I think that's what you're asking. His book, Tip of the Spear, which was offered an award from a platform that has decidedly, aligned itself with genocide of Palestinians, and he rejected the award. So you can see his Instagram for the statement. You can see him talking about it again on LSR on the platform, and big salute, because it's always good to have your work recognized, and his work is fantastic. But sometimes you gotta, now you can't. So yeah. Other than that, fellas, thank you very much. Oh, my bad. Go ahead. Yeah.
I was just saying thank you to Denzel and Jamel for coming again.
Yeah, yep.
It's always great to have other Tennessee organizers on, because I'll be fighting for my life.
Please,
the South got something to say.
Somebody got everybody on the ropes. Talk about fighting for my life.
The South got another date, not something to say.
Oh, Lord. Wow. Oh, wow.
Okay, so
my bad.
This is my last piece of advice. If you are single and not married, it makes perfect sense to have an active dating life if that's what you want for yourself, and that's what I want from you.
Listen to your therapist, people.
Shout out to the Honorable Hiram Rivera. We appreciate you.
Salutes.
Big time salute. Absolutely. All right, everybody. Peace. Only if you're willing to fight for it, like Fred Hampton used to say. And see you next time right here for more
Remix. 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 Remix.